In this episode of Hot Foul, Mike and I explore Adam Silver's response to the allegations that the Clippers circumvented the cap with Kawhi Leonard. We ask, what does a perfect Celtics season look like? And we give an update on Jayson Tatum's injury rehab. Finally, we close on the current state of society and the sad events that have happened over the last couple of weeks. All that and more right now on Hot Foul.
You're listening to...
They're going to call it a hard foul. They're going to call it a hard foul.
Back with another episode of Hard Foul, brought to you by the what, Mike?
Booyakasha, the Fan First Sports Network, bitch.
That is correct, the Fan First.
You remember him? Remember Ali G in the house?
I do remember Ali G. Yes.
He wouldn't survive in today's political climate.
Oh, no, he would just adapt and thrive. He'd be wearing a MAGA hat, that character. And,
he might be. He might be.
Yeah, he would have been one of the bro podcasters. So he'd be fine. He'd be quite fine. But Mike, we are getting extraordinarily close. September 26th is Media Day. So we are, today is the 19th. We are 1 week away. We're 33 days away from the first game. We're actually going to have some real basketball, which is exciting. I know the team doesn't look that great this year, but I don't know about you. I'm ready for it. The Patriots getting going. I need some sports. Yeah.
Get my NBA League Pass up and running, and let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll spend some time in one of the episodes coming up talking about exactly what teams we'll look forward to for League Pass and things like that. But
oh yeah, definitely.
I think that's we'll spend some time on that when it's appropriate. But Mike, we spent a lot of time in the last episode. And by the way, I'm Jim Quigley. This is my brother Mike Quigley, as always. But we spent a lot of time in the last episode talking about the Pablo Torre expose involving Kawhi Leonard and Steve Ballmer and the Clippers. And there has been, some new news that have come out. Torre has dug up some new information since we spoke that it's just a pile-on of the evidence. What's interesting to me, though, and what I want to talk to you about, I don't want to really get more into the weeds. We spent a lot of that time on the last episode doing that. Did you see Adam Silver this week, Mike?
I did. Talk about a guy who really wants to take this on and go full throttle, huh?
Yeah, balls to the wall. Tell the audience basically what his approach is in.
To do nothing.
Well, to be fair, it's to do nothing until after the All-Star game. And the All-Star game is being hosted where, Mike?
Oh, let me think. Is the answer in Los Angeles?
Yes, with the Lakers, right?
I have a feeling it's with the Clippers.
It is. It's in the brand new Clippers arena. Steve Ballmer is hosting the All-Star game there in LA. And so it's a curious decision. What do you think is motivating his decision to wait till after the All-Star break with the Clippers are hosting it?
To give him time to do a full investigation, to get all the answers, and to handle this correctly.
Yes, because it will at least take until February to do that, right? That arbitrary deadline of the All-Star break. It probably has nothing to do with who the host is and how the money's going to be made, and the fact that it could be an embarrassment for the NBA if they have the All-Star game there, and you have maybe one of the biggest sports crimes that has ever happened with laying at the feet of the owner there. That you don't think that?
The good thing. I mean, the good thing that will come out of this is although the owner won't get in trouble, but Kawhi Leonard won't play most of those games anyways. So if you were going to suspend him, it's fine. He won't be on the court.
Yeah, right. He's going to be injured anyways.
Yes.
And
collecting checks from rogue agencies.
This is where we need Alex Jones in the NBA to start tying this to
yes. What do you have to say about
entities
this,
and yeah. Although it would probably turn very anti-Semitic very quickly.
Alex, how do you feel about this?
Oh, I can't even do them right now.
Oh, okay.
Look, Kawhi Leonard, Steve Ballmer. It's all false flag, friends. It's all false flag. What the NBA is really trying to do is soil the blood of our children so the Democrats can drink their blood and get strength and a strength to take on our president. It's all false flag.
That's right. That's exactly what's happening.
But it is
Thank you.
it is crazy. It's a crazy time. I just it really, when he said that, Mike, to me, when he said he's going to wait till after the All-Star break, it just feels like a guy that is setting up to say there is no direct evidence that implicate the Clippers or Kawhi Leonard to a salary cap violation. There might
Yeah.
be a mountain of circumstantial evidence, right? That is there that, in a court of law would be more than enough to indict and convict. But I think Adam Silver is going to say, since there is not direct evidence, it's essentially the opposite of Deflategate, where it was they
Yeah.
just used all the circumstantial evidence, which isn't even as strong there as it is here to convict Brady. They're going to use the circumstantial evidence argument to say we can't move forward.
Yeah, this is exactly how his predecessor would have handled it, I think. And so, I mean, are you really surprised, Jimmy? I mean, I'm
Not
not surprised.
surprised, but I do wonder if it was another owner, not Steve Ballmer,
Maybe.
that
I mean,
doesn't
if it
have
was like
as
somebody from
deep
the Hornets or something.
yeah, someone that doesn't
Yeah.
have the deep pockets that he has and has invested like he has. He builds that new arena. You have the NBA All-Star game there, a guy that's willing to spend, but also not bitch about the cap. Um, it's been mostly good things for the NBA since he's come on. Before this, expose was kind of unveiled, it felt like, you would call Steve Ballmer one of the elite owners in the league, even though his team hasn't gotten past the second round. But
Mhm.
I that should not be a reason to, what's the point of this? What is the point of second aprons and first aprons and, luxury tax and all this other bullshit if you could just avoid it by paying some tree planting company, that is, using an excuse of climate change to make billions of dollars in fraud.
Yeah. Um, I said how I felt about it in the last pod. I think there needs to be serious repercussions for this, and it just doesn't sound like that's going to happen. Obviously, I think they
Yeah.
just want this to go away, and hopefully Pablo Torres will not let it go away.
And look, so this isn't politics, so this is sports fans. So we're gonna just move on to the next thing, whether our teams are playing well or not. And they're just gonna count on that
Yep.
no one's really gonna be upset about this. Um, the Clippers aren't like one of those organizations that get people fired up like the Patriots were when, Deflategate and things like that were happening.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that going for them where, they can probably get away with this to an extent. Because I don't know how much fans are going to be pounding down the door to see a resolution of guilt on behalf of Bomber and the Clippers, which is really too bad because this is quite the big deal.
Yep. And they'll do
Yeah.
it again.
Oh, someone else will. Yeah, it's a green light
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, right. Isn't it
Yeah.
just kind of? I'm sure like there'll be a strongly worded letter out to owners. You better not do this. Um, but you've kind of shown how you can do it, um and maybe even be a little bit more careful, and the league won't go after you unless there is a direct piece of paper saying this is how I'm circumventing the cap. And I really
Yep.
do feel like that's what's going to happen here. I,
Yeah,
I, I
Jim.
just I just do at this point. um all right, anything else you want to add to that, to the bomber issue, anything new that you've seen, or do you think we got that covered?
We got that covered, and we'll just keep an eye out for the future stories that are going to come out.
Sounds good. All right, Mike, let's move on. I don't know. Did you see this isn't a huge report, I don't think, but it's interesting to me, and I think it just kind of confirmed what I I think we already knew. But on Zolak and Bertrand yesterday, Bertrand, you know, kind of said, and they announced it as breaking news, and I know they need to do that for their show, but Jayson Tatum has not left Boston outside of kind of weekend trips all year and has been overly committed to his rehab, surpassing the expectations of the staff of what he's been doing more than he's asked to do. Um, and he's there every single day. Um,
Yep.
I
Anybody
have
who's
reasons
surprised
why
by
I think,
this
go ahead.
hasn't been paying it. Anybody who's surprised by this hasn't been paying attention to Jayson Tatum for like the past decade. This is exactly who he is. Exactly who he is. He basketball comes first, and he's dedicated to his team. He's dedicated to his program. He does all the right things. And I said on earlier pods, I don't have expectations for him because I don't think that's fair. But I have a very strong belief in him that he could come back this year and be very good. I believe in him. And I think we're already seeing it.
Yeah, no, and the other reason I think it's a really big deal, Mike, is I think it just sets a tone. Like this is a guy that, he could have went off to California. He could have went, St.
Mm-hmm.
Louis, wherever to rehab this, down in Miami. He's in the facility every day. I think it's setting a tone with everyone in there that there's no shortcuts, that there's no days off, that he's
Who he
doing
is.
everything with in his power, and to have your best player um go after it this way. I think it's really important. And you're not the same team anymore. You're not the team with
Exactly.
the veterans and championship pedigree like you had before. You've had a ton of turnover. Guys have left. Leaders on this team have left. You have some new faces in there. You have a lot of young guys, and I think it's really important for them to see this is how you be a champion. This is how you compete in this league, and this is how you be a Celtic. And I know it sounds a little bit silly. It sounds like a high school type, message, but I think it matters. And I think them seeing this from him is quiet leadership. I'm sure guys are showing up at the gym and he's already there. And that just kind of sets a precedent. It really does. And the
It's
fact he's
the
done it all summer.
it's the exact mentality that he was attracted to his whole life. It is the Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality. This is exactly what Kobe used to do. This is the guy waking up after working out till 11 o'clock at night to wake back up at 4 in the morning to be back at the gym, and then out working all the rookies. Like these are the things you used to hear about Kobe, and I am not. So I think it's awesome. I'm just saying I'm not surprised. This is who Jayson Tatum is. This is the type of leader he is, and this is why I think we've always loved him. I fully expect him to come back, and he won't be the stud, this season, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is next year. I wouldn't. That's how good he is, and that's how hard he works. Hopefully, he doesn't get injured again because he's got that mentality. He's got that best player in the league type aura to him, and I think we're going to see even more of it as he leads teams that aren't as talented. So as we get prepared for this year, and it's going to be tough at times, there is a light at the end of the tunnel that eventually this guy's going to be back. Um, and when he's back, we may not be that championship team right away, but we're going to be competitive right away.
Yeah,
Believe it. You better believe it.
He
That
makes them.
just get
Yeah.
ready. Yeah.
And you're already seeing like so the follow-up report from you know what NBC Sports Boston kind of saying that you know there are some in the building, or I forget how it was framed, that come the turn of the calendar you got to start to hear the whispers about him coming back. I thought that was interesting that was in there. I kind of don't love seeing it. I don't like any type of pressure or timeline on an injury like this. But but when you hear things are like going better than expected and things of that nature, I would not be shocked at all come, end of February, March, if you start hearing things about him wanting to return. And then the Celtics, of course, have a decision on their hands about how
Well,
to
that's
do
the thing.
that and if to do that.
That's the thing because I guarantee the whispers aren't coming from the Celtics. The whispers are coming from Jayson Tatum's camp because Jayson Tatum believes and knows I'm going to be ready, and they're going to have to tell me no. And that's the tricky part about having this kind of guy on your team, because telling someone like him no is going to be very difficult because of who he is and what he represents. So I find it all very interesting because I don't think he's going to want to wait. I think Jayson Tatum's going to. This is all he's. This is all he cares about. His kid and basketball. So I think it's going to be a great story just to follow and see what happens.
Oh yeah, no, and it's going to be interesting. All the updates we get all season long. I feel like that's going to be the thing you pay attention to most on Twitter. Um, yeah, no, I agree with it. I'm still in the camp where I hope it's not this season that we see him. I just don't want this to be rushed.
I get it. I get it.
And I feel like I don't know what's really gained by him coming back this year. It could be a nice story. It could be one of those things that make fans feel great. Maybe you get a bump from it from the team a little bit. But I
I'm in
just
your
guess
camp.
I don't see the point. You go another off season, you come back next year as
Mm,
strong as you can be, and you're ready to go, and you're ramping up with your teammates to get into game speed at the same time instead of trying
yeah,
to ramp up to game speed coming off an injury in March, which feels like a lot to me. Um,
yeah, Jim. I'm in your camp, but I think the problem with what we want is Jayson Tatum doesn't give a fuck, and he thinks
no,
we're both
no, should
wrong.
he? No, should he?
that
And he
that's
should be
so
working to get back as quickly as
yeah,
possible and as strong as possible and all those things, responsibly. And it sounds like he is.
yep.
Um, Mike, has your Anthony Simons, where are you on him right now? At this point, do you want to just see them roll the dice, let him go out there and play? I mean, there is a need at that position, at the guard position, a scoring guard. Um,
Of
like,
course,
yeah,
yes, because one, as a fan, I want to see him play. Like, all right, guy scores 20 points a night with Joe Mazzulla. Maybe that's like one of him and Jaylen Brown, like the fun things we get this year that on TV. But number two, when's he gonna have value? Not now. So go have him play. Go have him play and have him play really well. And if you want to cut that salary, if you're still making financial decisions on how you're running your basketball team, trade him with when he has value at the trade deadline when he's put up 20 points efficiently for you and you got him in a system where he looks really good. Move him. Do what you should have done with Evan Turney years ago. Like trade the value. Like get this guy here, get him playing well, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to watching him just have something to look forward to basketball wise, but also hopeful that this could be a valuable trade piece as they rebuild in this new financial system that they're stuck in.
yeah, they didn't really trade Evan Turner. He left
No, I'm
free
saying they
agency.
should have. That's a move they
Yeah,
should have made. Yeah.
yeah, perhaps. Yeah, I don't think this doesn't really seem like to be a market for him. Honestly, that's the reason I think you should keep him. I think if there was a market for him, he would be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought after September 9th, there might be movement because you could aggregate him in trades at that point because the 2-month moratorium was over. That is come and gone. You've heard zero rumors whatsoever that are real. So I just feel like, you know what, you need scoring out of that position. Maybe he's a little bit too ball dominant for the way you want to play, but at the same time, he's a good 3-point shooter. He kind of fits what Missoula wants to do. You don't have a lot of talent, so
Exactly.
let's let it roll and see how it works out. And maybe it works out for both. Maybe the Celtics and he play above expectations, and that helps him for his next contract. And um, we get a season out of it. I think that's probably pie in the sky thinking, but it's certainly possible anyways. Uh yeah, so I'm with you. And mostly not because I'm Anthony Simon pilled, and I'm so excited to watch him. Just there is a need at the guard position, but probably the bigger reason there's just not a market for him. I don't think it's scoring. There's no one's looking for a small scoring two guard right now.
Yeah, no, of course not.
Mike, we're like we talked about, we're real close to media day. We're real close now to tipping off in about a month against the Sixers. What does the perfect 25-26 Celtic season look like to you? Is it a tank? Is that the best possible scenario
Oh,
in your
fuck
mind of a
that.
perfect season? Or is it something else? Is it, they play everyone plays to the highest level of expectations, we get a great season out of this? Is it individual plays grow? What is the best case scenario for this team this season coming up, and maybe more importantly, going forward?
Yeah. Um, Best case scenario for this season is that Keita establishes himself as a legitimate, good Luke Cornett type backup center for future years. And with that, the Celtics end up in like the 6th seed. They avoid the play-in tournament, and they take one of these top 3 seeds, whoever it ends up being, maybe Orlando or Detroit, one of those teams, Milwaukee. Um, and they put a ton of pressure on them in that first round of the playoffs, and maybe we get an upset. To me, that would be a hell of a season given the circumstances.
Yeah, no, I think the Keita thing would be nice. To me, like my perfect season is the best outcome for Jaylen Brown. If he can raise his game another level, you know,
Mm.
and he's gonna, I think, experience some, rough moments maybe early in the season where he sees different coverages, especially from really good teams that he hasn't seen in the past. But if, he's got enough muscle memory, it won't be like the first time in his career that he's seen this. So it should be able to process it pretty quickly. If you make a mistake in one game, be able to, move on to the next. I don't think you're going to see the growing pains of a young player or anything like that. But if he can be like an all NBA player, maybe get this team to play above, their heads even a little bit, even if that's 3 or 4 or 5 extra wins than you might have expected out of this team, um, a tough playoff out. And you can legitimately look at the Celtics next year as, yeah, they've always had 2 all-stars. They have 2 legitimate all NBA players
Yeah.
when Tatum gets healthy. I think it's changes the way you need to approach Tatum, which is helpful, especially him coming off an injury. If you're defending the Celtics next year, if Brown's able to take this step. And I also think it takes a tremendous amount of pressure off Tatum coming off an injury, where he doesn't necessarily have to be 1A next October, November, December, right? He can
Yeah.
share that responsibility with Brown, and the coaching staff can have that trust that we can do this. So I don't think he needs to jump, from 24 points a game to 28 points a game. Oh, I don't see that as a success. How is he getting his teammates more involved? How is he taking the approach of seeing these different coverages, of taking on the best defender of the other team? Um, how is he settling his teams down in the biggest moments when the ball is in his hands? And I think those are things you just kind of see and when you watch this game all the time. And it's obvious, it's honestly what, you know, teams pick up on quickly. They recognize what you can and can't do. And so to me, that's the biggest thing going forward. Um, and I think, the center position is still really difficult to kind of see how they improve, especially if Keita doesn't step up in the next couple of seasons. There's questions in the backcourt. Obviously, Derek White could be an all-star, which would be nice this year. But of all those things, to me, the biggest, most important thing is, Jaylen Brown taken a step, and it's not even like a huge step, right? Because he's pretty much already there. But it's enough of a step that will make I think, a huge difference come next season.
I mean, exactly. Like if that happens, we're both getting what we want. Jaylen Brown's playing at that level. This team's competing in the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jaylen Brown does that, right? He's right. I don't think he would either. He's rise to the occasion a bunch of times, and I think he's really looking forward to this opportunity. I'm sure he's not psyched that Tatum got hurt, but at the same time, he's probably thinking like this is a really good chance for me to show everybody just how good I am. And the Tatum Brown, you know, the tandem is perfect because if Brown does take that next step and he does do that and he comes back and they're together in 27, the thing with Tatum is he's the perfect teammate to be doing it with because Tatum isn't afraid to pass the ball. He's not afraid to do other things to be great. So I agree with you. That is a great scenario, Jimmy. And we've had a lot on this pod of things not to look forward to, and those are the things that we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about Jaylen Brown and how he's playing. We'll be talking about if Cade is getting better, and I do think those are things that could make the season entertaining, especially if they figure out a way to be competitive. So yeah, I agree with you, Jim, on Jaylen Brown. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and basketball is almost there, and I think we need that.
And speaking of basketball, Jim, and around the league, have you the Malik Beasley stuff? The investigation's over, and he's not being charged. And so you see all the money that went around, and he didn't make this offseason. I wonder where he's going to end up. I mean, he's only going to get a minimum contract now. Barring any changes, it doesn't look like he would be suspended. I would think that's a guy that the Celtics might want to look at.
Well, what I understand is he's still a subject. So there's no charges as of right now, but the DOJ will never say that someone isn't going to be charged.
So I thought the charges were dropped.
No, there were never charges on him. There was an investigation. There's no charges being brought forward as of now. The league is doing their own investigation. As a team that is kind of rebuilding here, I just don't think you need that noise as good as he could be for this season. If you were kind of built like you were last year, I'd say roll the dice, but you're developing young players. You're in transition. I don't know. It's probably not worth it.
If he's able to play wherever he ends up, that playoff team, that's going to be a huge addition. Like if I'm Milwaukee, I'd be really trying to get him back right now. I mean, you got nothing to lose in Milwaukee.
Yeah, no, you would think so, unless if the feds come back knocking on the door, and that could be a pretty huge distraction. So I would agree. I don't know, like the fact that no one's jumped on him, Mike, is kind of telling, right?
Because he's good. Like, he was really good last year.
Yeah, so it's kind of you can probably get him cheap. The fact that no one's jumped on him is a little bit telling. Maybe someone will before training camp. I wonder if Silver is kind of wanting teams not to as they do their investigation, because it's a pretty significant crime in sports.
Yeah.
If he was betting on NBA games, that's a pretty significant one. Especially at the salary he was at,
It's interesting. Like, I want to see where it goes because obviously the Terry Rozier stuff kind of went nowhere. And, if the guy is innocent, he lost a lot of money.
He sure did. Yeah, if he's innocent. Yeah.
So we're at that point of the pod, Jim, where we talk about life in the world.
Well, why don't we do this? Unless you have any closing thoughts on the Celtics, Mike, or the NBA, why don't we take a break right now? And we'll listen to our advertisers. And then on the other side of the break, Mike and I are going to talk for just a couple of minutes on things that kind of get into worldly issues. And if you don't want to hear us say that, end the pod now. But we'll on the other side of the break, we're going to kind of get into some stuff political, things like that. So here's your warning. Shut off the pod now if you want to hear us. We'll be doing this on the other side of the break, right before the outro. All right, Mike, we're back. Obviously, in the last pod, we spent a moment talking about, 9/11, and we kind of hinted around about the Charlie Kirk assassination in Utah, but we didn't dig into it. We tied it into sports. I wanted to give it time before I talked about it at all, but I do have some thoughts that I want to share, and I'm sure you do too. That have been kind of sitting with me for a little bit here. First and foremost, and it's a shame even, you have to say things like this, but obviously violence, particularly political violence and assassinations are never a good thing. It's awful what happened to his family, what happened to him. Charlie Kirk, our prayers and thoughts go out to him, and no one should ever have to live through that. The other thing about political violence that I think people need to understand that's unique from any other type of violence, it's an attack on all of us. It's an attack on our way of lives. It's an attack on our government. And it's an attack on democracy. And it gives people an opening if we don't take it seriously and we don't all push back. It gives people an opening to take advantage of the situation and do some more awful things.
Yeah.
And in the world we live in today, unfortunately, you saw some comments and you saw some actions in the aftermath that I don't know how else to put it, just awful.
Deplorable.
You know,
You're still seeing it.
You're still seeing it. And in the immediate aftermath, you saw a couple things. You saw, and I can't say I knew any of these people personally, or I can't even say that I saw anyone of that I would consider prominent, but I did see enough of people wanting to shitpost right in the immediate aftermath and say some things of almost justifying the killing or being glad that he is dead because of things that he has said before. And that's just terrible. And what I would say to those people is you do not have to post. You do not have to write anything. If you have nothing really honorable or nice to say in that situation, just put your keyboard away. Because it offers nothing. If you think because he had said things that offended you about the LGBTQ community or along racial lines that offended you, I want to ask you, do you think this killing helped anyone in those groups today? Do you think they're better off today?
Made it a lot worse.
And I just, it's also just a terrible thing to say. And it opens up for people to point out entire group of people to your comments. The other thing that I saw before I get into, and I want to hear your thoughts before I get into but I saw some of our elected officials say, Mike, the other thing that I saw in the immediate aftermath is this tribal instinct where we need to point out who we thought did this and who we wish didn't. I saw progressives and Democrats, which I would consider myself, up until the police spoke to this topic, wanting to say that it was this far right, as I guess it's called Groipa group, that was affiliated with this killing and could not handle the fact that this kid was was persuaded by left-wing politics.
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't mean that a whole group of people is responsible for this. He is responsible for this. He is a dirtbag. It is awful what he did. And then, but at the same time, the right was doing the exact same thing without any information available, wanting to, and they continue to do it. To not just want to blame that this kid was a left winger, but to blame an entire group of people and planned retribution. And I've gone from being anxious and like really upset about this to, I'll be honest, today I'm pissed off. And when we hear the president, when we hear people like the vice president and the director of the FBI and the attorney general talking about going after hate speech, and it feels like hate speech is anything that's said negatively about the president,
Well, that's
or even Charlie Kirk. This just feels like they're now using this as an opportunity to divide us further, to punish opponents. And I got to tell you, it's back to my original point, where you don't have to say anything in the immediate aftermath. You don't have to give them any reason at all to double down on how they feel, which they were going to anyways. But the opportunity is to wait. If you want to combat what they're going to say, which they're doing now. I just, violence is never the answer, obviously. It's never, ever the answer, especially in political violence. There's things you can do. You can protest. You can push back. You can try to persuade people. But I am really nervous for our country right now on where we go and what happens next. Because if there's anything we've learned from our past and from history, is that usually this isn't the only instance, and we've already had more than a few already. So what happens next is kind of unknown, but at the same time, it doesn't feel good. And Mike, I don't know how you feel. I know I spoke for a while there. And I know it was a bit all over the place, but I wanted to get it out.
Yeah. I think you have the same sentiment and correct attitude of most Americans. And if you get off of Twitter and off of social media and you talk to your neighbor, this is how most people feel. You know, people on the right, people on the left, people in the middle are our neighbors. And we will disagree about many things. But I think we've always agreed upon listening to each other and loving each other as Americans. And one thing, I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about Charlie Kirk because I don't. But I do know from clips that I saw, one clip that stood out to me, and there were some negative ones and positive ones, what have you, when he said that, and I'm not going to get this quote right, but I'll get close. Basically, the idea behind what he said was we have to be able to listen to each other. The reason I travel the country and debate people is because that's what we should be doing. Something along those lines. And if we're going to take anything from this guy's death, I would take that. That's what I would take from it as a legacy and something to make positive from his tragedy, is that he wanted us to listen to each other and speak to those who we don't agree with. Jimmy, I got to hang up my. You can edit that out. And so, what I also want to share is just that Charlie Kirk was a Christian, and how we use our Christian faith. At least I'm a Christian, and how I believe my faith works. And what Jesus would want us to do is to understand that we don't have control over what's coming next, but we do have we react to it. We do have control over how we treat each other and how we value each other's humanity. And whether the president and his leadership want to do that, that's completely up to them. But that's not a reflection of America. And we can be better than this moment. And history shows us that this can get real bad. But in the United States of America, history can also show us that we overcome this stuff and that the people overcome this stuff to keep democracy. And so, as I see everything under attack right now and vision that's being created, not by us, but by those in charge, I think we can rise above it and not let it tear us apart. And I don't know if that's what Charlie Kirk would want or not, but I do know that's what he said at one point in his life. So
Yeah,
that's all I have to say about it.
I'm not going to pretend to speak for him, but you are right. We've had points in our history that are much worse, and I know people have a hard time grasping that. But we had a civil war, the post-Reconstruction, up until the civil rights movement, we were on a razor's edge. You talk about just so many different instances where we've had to kind of overcome where we are. Leading up to World War II, we had a pro-Nazi movement going on in this country.
That movement's back.
And we rose up against the fascists and pushed back. So those are things where we've been on the brink before, and America has risen up and stood up. I think, the differences here, and you mentioned talk about what we can control, is you have Silicon Valley now trying to control you and control what you see and the information you get. And these algorithms really show us the worst versions of ourselves. And they want to cement your preconceived notions even more about people that are different than you. And
yeah, man, you sound like the governor of Utah. Get off the computer and go touch some grass.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think it's worse now than 5 years ago with these algorithms, and I think it's leading to us treating each other as distant enemies rather than neighbors. And so that's one thing that is a huge difference, and we need to recognize that, and we need to, figure out where and how we're getting our information and how we're treating each other can't be based on what we're seeing on, some feed on our phone. And I hope we can find our better angels. But at the same time, I sit here, Mike, and I watch what's gone on this week and what the government's response and what this administration's response has been, and obviously the Jimmy Kimmel thing, and which is, not because of Charlie Kirk. I think people are misunderstanding. This has been a trend now that they've been doing with law firms and colleges, and Stephen Colbert was before this, and they're not going to stop there. And it's so important that you realize that your First Amendment right is not gone. Jimmy Kimmel isn't fired because our First Amendment right is gone. It's because ABC and Disney decided they didn't want to fight for it.
Yep.
They made a financial decision where they didn't want to fight for it. And that doesn't mean you can't, and we can't. You have the right to express yourself in so many different ways that are nonviolent. And you need to do that. And when we see something happen that is, we deem to be illegal or trampling on our rights, we need to speak up. Because I know a lot of people, they want you to be almost a nihilist at this point, to give up, that your rights are being taken away. Well, and I do hate when people compare us, the situation we're in, to Nazi Germany or, some authoritarian state from 100 years ago. Well, there are no black shirts or brown shirts out in the streets right now, dragging you out for saying the wrong thing or looking the wrong way or being the wrong person. If that happens, we'll be in a different place, but we're not right now. So know that you still have your strength, you still have your rights, and to exercise them when you feel that it's appropriate. If you think you've lost them, then we've lost. We haven't lost them. And that's how I want to end it, Mike. I don't know if you want to close with anything.
Oh, we just have to treat each other better and realize that the enemy is not next door to you. They're your neighbor, and we have to stop demonizing each other over political values and start to try to have an understanding and meet in the middle somewhere, because when you flip the coin on Republican or Democrat, there's faults and truths on both sides of it, as there is in everything in this world. Half the country is MAGA and half the country isn't. And if we can't figure this out, as Jimmy said to you, it could get really ugly. And also, we hold the people that are in charge accountable by not giving up on American values. And I think we all have to look in the mirror and remember what those are, because we all need them. We all need freedom of speech. We all need freedom of expression. We all need that stuff. And it will go away if we don't fight for it. So, all right. That's everything I got to say, Jim. I think we're good, right? To the next pod.